Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. My name is Sheldon and today we're on the website of Chicago Violin Auction based in the US, obviously in Chicago, and they have an auction coming up on April the 6th, so quite a way away because we're on the 17th of March at the moment, and it's of kind of bowed stringed instruments and related things, so violins, violas, bows, etc. Now this is the second ever Chicago Violin Auction. This is a new auction house to the US, and I think it's really good for people, especially US based buyers, but also for other buyers in the world to have another US based auction. So I'm excited to have a look at this catalogue. There's about 160 lots in this auction, so it's fairly substantial, so it should be quite a good one. I've very briefly looked at a few things but not in detail, so it'll be kind of new for me as well. Buyer's premium on this auction is 20%, so whatever the final hammer price is, you need to add 20% to that. Bear in mind that this is a US based auction, so if you're looking to buy anything and you're outside of the US, then bear that in mind, shipping and all of that kind of export stuff, possibly CITES restrictions on kind of restricted materials, ivory, tortoiseshell, etc. Anyway, that's enough of me kind of going on. Just like to say, if you do enjoy these videos, please consider subscribing, like, comment, turn on notifications, etc. And we're going to do our best to go through the catalogue as quickly as possible and just look at things which seem interesting. Any comments or questions, please let me know. If I notice anything or have any feedback about the auction or any items, I will do my best to convey them. So yeah, without further ado, let's just crack on and see what we have, starting on lot 1. So we have a German silver mounted violin bow branded Taut, probably by Otto Heuer there, $1,500 to $2,200 dollars. There's the estimate. We've got a condition report as well. We're not going to look at every single lot, but it's just kind of interesting to see how this is laid out. Now, I think last time I said I really like the images. Actually, I think they're really quite crisp, quite high quality. It still looks like that. The viewer seems kind of nicer, I think, actually, than before as well. So it's looking good. This kind of way that the this layout of this auction might be a bit unusual to some people, so it might take a bit of getting used to, but I think they're open to feedback. So if anyone bids on this auction or is viewing this auction, feel free to email them some feedback and I'm sure they'll take it on board. So you can see here they've got the weight listed here and also the brand, etc., and then some more details about the actual auction, bid increments, etc. So we're not going to go into too much of this stuff going through the auction, but just to show you that's kind of how it works. But yeah, really nice looking photos so far. Kind of an interesting layout. I think it could possibly do with a bit of a kind of design adjustments, but you know, if it's fit for purpose, then you know you don't need to go too crazy on it. So another German bow, probably by Otto Heuer. It's good that you can kind of look at these images pretty quickly without kind of blowing them up, so I think that's quite a good thing, and it looks smooth so far. I didn't bid in the last auction, I'll be honest, so I don't know if anyone's watching these videos, if you bid in the first Chicago Violins auction, was it good, was it smooth? You know, always worth kind of investigating that, and I may try and bid on something this time if I can. So another kind of German violin bow, Otto Heuer. See recurring theme here. So it takes a little bit of time to load between lots, not unusual to be honest, and the internet connection I've got here is not necessarily the greatest either, so could also be a problem at my end. German nickel mounted violin bow of the Knopf school there, $200 to $300, so we can see there's a range of things here. We've got a condition report that actually has some info on, like missing the eyes there, missing faceplate, so that's pretty good, it's quite clear. So looks like we're starting off with bows here. German nickel mounted violin bow branded Viola Paris, $200 to $300, like fairly standard so far. So descriptions seem believable, and you can kind of go down and see the weights, etc. Another German bow there, so we're not going to go spend too much time on that. Another German bow marked Hornsteiner, so estimates all fairly reasonable here. Interesting that we get this kind of pop-up here. This, I think, should probably disappear, this click to interact. After you've been on the site a couple of times, I think this should probably stop appearing because it gets a little bit kind of in your way. This is just feedback for the auction house in case they decide to watch this video, but otherwise so far it's actually working pretty smoothly. German violin bow branded Lion and Healy. I'm not going to get into individual lots too much unless it's something I find interesting. So another German bow here, 3 to 500. So the bidding starts in 5 days. So we can see a lot of German bows so far. Another one here. This is all fairly standard looking stuff. There's nothing too crazy, but it's working smoothly. Pictures are nice. German bow. It's branded Ludwig. I think there's some higher end stuff here at some point. Interesting German bow, possibly HR Frechner. I think there's some more higher end stuff in this auction, so we might explore the images a bit more when we get to those. Another German bow, and everything so far looks very believable from the cataloguing point of view. English silver mounted violin bow by W.E. Hill & Sons. Let's have a look at this because I do like to look at this stuff. So 5 to 800 on this, so big head break, obviously, so it needs a bit of work. Yeah, condition report, yeah, pretty good. This image is a little bit interesting at the top there, but otherwise it's fairly clear. So I think that's interesting. Head splined. Now, yeah, I think this is a Hill bow. I don't really have any kind of disagreement with that. Just say that this is not a very nice repair, and I guess $500 to $800 is, I guess, not too bad, but I feel it's maybe a little bit high in terms of the estimate for that, personally. But maybe if you could get someone to do a better repair of that head, then that could be a bit more justifiable, but that will cost you money as well. So interesting anyway. German bow here, branded GG Biedermann. Yeah, this is a little bit annoying that this interact thing keeps on appearing. Wonder if we can navigate a different way to avoid that. No, whenever you click on it, it does that. German silver mounted violin bow branded Lamy. So yeah, I wonder if we can get rid of that in some way. German silver mounted violin bow branded Chadwick London. We can just carry on for now. French nickel mounted violin bow unmarked. Let's see if there's any other details in there. Just carry on for now. Another German bow. We're not going to get too into bows at the moment. German silver mounted violin bow by Michael Monig. 5 to 800 there. Getting into more interesting territory. Another German bow there. That looks fairly low tier stuff. German silver mounted violin bow by Carl Werner. 5 to 800. Let's have a quick look at this. A bit bigger. Yeah, I have to say I really do like the image quality. I think it is very good. We're curious to see what the instruments are like. German silver mounted violin bow by Otto Derschmidt there, 5 to 800. That all seems really reasonable from an estimate point of view. French nickel mounted violin bow by Marc Lebert, 5 to 800. Kind of nice sweeping head on that. So we're at lot 24 out of 162, so we've got a while to go. German silver mounted violin bow by Arnold Stoss there, or Stoss. See, terrible at pronouncing things. More German bows here. French nickel mounted violin bow branded Wurlitzer. So we don't want to get too deep into all the bows there, but 8 to 1200 looks interesting. French silver mounted violin bow unmarked, probably Charles Nicolas Bazat, 800 to 1200 there. Seems fairly reasonable. So I do like these condition reports. I think that is good. French gold-mounted violin bow, unmarked, 1,000 to 1,500. So far, kind of mainly quite reasonable. I know that the prices are usually a bit higher in the US in any case. Nice Fretchen bow there, 1,000 to 1,500. Let's see if there's any interesting stuff. German silver mounted violin bow, unmarked, 1,000 to 1,500. English silver mounted violin bow by W.E. Hill and Sons, okay, 1,200 to 1,800. This actually looks like a really quite nice bow, so let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. Condition report there. Interesting bow that. Let's see. Item contains CITES materials, so you can't ship it out of the US, so that's good. So everything seems completely kind of on board here, the information. So once again, if you are outside of the US, then don't kind of bid on that, because you're not going to be able to get it shipped to you. But interesting bow. Yeah, bearing the tip plates for William Retford. So yeah, nice looking bow for sure. That actually seems quite low, that estimate, to be honest, for that kind of bow. It's quite a nice one with the fleur-de-lis on it. German silver mounted viola bow by Albert Nürnberger, 1,500 to 2,200. Once again, that's actually a really fair kind of estimate. It's interesting. And let's see what else. Another Nürnberger there, 1,500 to 2,200. Yeah, nice looking head on that. So yeah, the Nürnberger stuff is great. Really good stuff and worth giving a try. Another Nürnberger here, 2 to 3. Yeah, that's kind of a bit more what I'm expecting for that. A lot of hill bows about, really are 2 to 3 on this one. Let's have a quick look at this. So, condition reports. Yeah, it looks interesting. Let's see if they've talking about any of the hill marks here. KB to the underside beside the mortar, scratched into the underside, HC. Yeah, some of the bows are, are quite clear who made them. Others are, it's a bit unclear. Some were imported, stuff like that. Okay, we've got a withdrawn lot there, so that's interesting. Does happen with auction houses. French silver mounted violin bow by Roger Lott. So it's looking quite nice so far, the auction. French silver mounted violin bow by Charles Alfred Bazin, 3 to 5. And French silver mounted violin bow by Charles Louis Bazin. I would also have it that not only to have this interact thing to disappear, but also maybe change it a bit so these arrows are kind of outside of the actual image. Might be kind of handy for people viewing. But other than that, smooth going so far. French silver mounted violin bow Gand and Bernardel Frère. 5 to 800 on that. Let's just see if there's any information there. Okay. Gold mounted violin bow branded FN Vorin, Paris. French silver mounted violin bow probably by Charles Pacat. Interesting looking bow there. Silver mounted violin bow of the Viola school, 3 to 5 on that. We're not going to get into it too much. Another French bow there, Viola Workshop, 5 to 8. Let's see what the condition report is saying on that. So it's got new wood there. I think that's kind of like a cheval, isn't it, or something like that. I think that's when the top part of the frog has been replaced. Actually, it's in possibly the hand of Pierre Simon. So yeah, I think we saw a bow by Pierre, the same as Viola school bow, possibly by Pierre Simon in the latest Amati auction. Okay, viola of the Austro-Hungarian school. Okay, interesting. Quite a cool looking instrument, this. Yeah, condition report, that's really, really nice. It's a lot better than the first time we looked at this auction in terms of overall layout. 409 length of back. Yeah, interesting. $1,000 to $1,500. Yeah, it's a curious looking instrument. A viola unlabeled. $500 to $800 there. So again, I think nice images. Yeah, good kind of condition report. 397 length of back there. I might just zoom out a tiny bit for the instruments just to make it a bit easier for me to see. American Viola by Stephen Rowles Sedgwick, 2002, 1500 to 2200, and really nice looking viola, that really well made. Not aware of this maker, but interesting. 416 length of back. It's a good modern size. Right, we're back to bows again. I'll leave it zoomed out, it's just a bit easier for me. German silver mounted viola bow, branded Sartori there. Silver mounted viola bow, branded Cremona. Armenini. Let's see what else we have here. Nickel mounted cello bow, branded P. Mallard à Paris. Another bow branded Vora, so lots of German bows here. Bow of the Knopf school there, 700 to 1,000. Yeah, and lovely head on that as well. Nice sweeping head. So let's carry on. Another German silver mounted cello bow by Otto Paulus there. An American alligator violin case, 300 to 400. Yeah, lots of those about. Interesting things. English oak violin case, 2 to 300. Interesting violin attributed to the late Galliano family. Okay, 1,000 to 1,500. So remember, attributed is someone has said in the past that they think it's a Galliano. So let's see who was saying that. Is this certificate from? Francis Duke Ballard, collector and dealer of rare violins. Okay, interesting. Not seen a certificate by those people before. Bearing the label Luigi Filano. Yeah, Francis Duke Ballard. Never heard of that kind of collector dealer before. So that is interesting. Kind of curious looking instrument actually. I quite like it on the back. So yeah, not so much maybe from the front, but interesting instrument. Violin labelled Stradivarius. This looks fairly standard, so I'm not going to go into that too much. An American violin, Pan American. Yeah, it's kind of slightly curious. Yeah, interesting. Violin unlabelled. This looks like fairly standard kind of Eastern European style stuff there. 2 to 300 as well. The estimate reflects that. French violin line in Healy. I think we don't need to look at that. Violin unlabelled, possibly workshop of Honoré de Razy, 3 to 500. Okay. Not 100% sure about that, but still low estimates. That's good. American violin by A.J. Lewandowski, 1973. Nice kind of back on that. I always have some access to some amazing wood in the US. So 3 to 500, can't kind of complain there. It's a very fair estimate. Violin of the Hop School, kind of standard stuff there. Looks very kind of 19th century kind of one. Violin unlabelled. Looks kind of fairly standard there. Another unlabelled violin here. See if there's any additional information there. 359 length the back. So yeah, interesting so far, seeing most of these for the first time. Another violin unlabelled. That's interesting. It says unlabelled, but it does have a repair label. Violin unlabelled again. Okay, not seeing too much from that. Violin labelled Nicholas Amatus. Looks like a fairly standard kind of German 19th century kind of thing, or even turn of the century. A similar kind of thing here. Also, again, we'll find another similar one there. Another looks like a fairly tradey instrument. American violin by John Marshall, Chicago, circa 1917. 3 to 500 on that. Yeah, fairly interesting. Kind of these kind of aggressive Guarneri-esque F-holes there. Violin unlabelled. It's possibly kind of Eastern Europe, but these things can be very deceptive, so always worth looking at things in person. Many times now I've seen something online and thought it was just rubbish, and then seen it in person or been told by someone what it actually was, and realised that I don't really know all that much. Another 3/4 violin here, so we'll just go through those. 7/8 Czech violin there, 4 to 600. Another violin labelled Stradivarius. Pretty cool back on that, but nothing too crazy. Violin labelled Carlo Tononi. Looks also like another tradey violin. We're at the close to the halfway mark at the moment. So a few kind of tradey violins at the moment. Magini, it's another kind of German trade violin. Another German violin here. I think we're starting to ramp up a bit more in value. A fairly standard kind of instrument. Another kind of trade, but getting maybe marginally better. Quite a nice scroll on that. More Strad labelled stuff. Left-handed violin. Okay, interesting. So I presume that the bass bar is kind of on the other side. Let's see what they say about that. Yeah, curious. Electric violin by Barkus Berry. So we've got all sorts of things in this auction. Violin labelled Antonius Stradivarius. An American violin by Louis Boulanger, St. Louis, 1873. Yeah, cool. Nice older American violin there, 4 to 600. That's kind of curious. Bloody hell, look at that. 368 length of back. That is absolutely huge. That is very interesting. German violin again. We're just going to go through that. The kind of German stuff, we don't need to go that too much. This E. Martin stuff is fairly standard so far. Another 3/4 violin. American violin by D.S. Kohlbau. Okay, 1921. I just realised I'm just so terrible at pronouncing any names. Violin unlabelled. Looks like kind of 19th century German to me. Another Strad labelled violin. It's kind of slightly nicer than some of the other ones that you've seen. Violin labelled Carl August Neumark. Violin Antonio Loveri. 5 to 800 on that. Violin unlabelled. Getting slightly more interesting here. 5 to 800 on the estimate on that. Violin unlabelled again. I think we're still in the kind of trade zone on that one. Saxon violin, possibly Simon Voigt. Okay. Newkirchen, 1795. Another kind of tradey violin there. Violin Antonio Saleri, probably Carl Hermann Workshop. Kind of nice back on that. 5 to 800, obviously needs a bit of kind of repair. Violin labelled Eduardo Pietro Grulli. Violin Jacobus Hornsteiner, it's all fairly standard so far. Violin Karl Hofner, that's also fairly standard. And violin labelled Viome à Paris, that's fairly standard looking as well. Another Strad labelled violin there, I think we can go past that one. Another Strad one here. Violin unlabelled. Another unlabelled violin here. And another. All so far look like fairly kind of standard trade instruments there. Another one with a Viome label there. Violin ascribed to Friedrich Dreyer, or Dreyer. German violin, Frechner, 1926. Quite nice back on that actually. Looks in pretty good condition. 355 length of back on that. Violin label Jules Bourgard. Violin unlabelled. Looks like some kind of late 19th century kind of thing. American violin by Thomas G. Push, Aurora, 1904. 6 to 900 there. Got a nice wood choice. Violin labelled Nicholas Amatus. Another Strad labelled instrument there. Violin unlabelled. Kind of getting to better levels of trade stuff there. Another unlabelled violin here. So we're starting to see the estimates creep up a little bit now. Violin probably Oscar Meinl. American violin by Joseph Pepin, Chicago, 1916. Yeah, 700 to 1,000 on that one. Violin labelled Colin Mazar, 700 to 1,000. American violin by J. Fred Fair, Chicago, 1935, 700 to 1,000 on that. It's actually looking to be fairly nice violin there. Some 359 length the back. Violin Julius Heberlein, a Marti model. You can kind of see that in the F-holes a bit. American violin by P.C. Poulsen, Chicago, 1902. Great to see all these American violins, and that is what I've really been missing since the Skinner auction closed, because you used to have lots of really interesting American violins, but not so much anymore. This is a kind of German trade violin, kind of 19th century. Violin unlabelled, okay. This is definitely a bit more interesting now. See if we can see a bit more about this. Definitely a lot of work done to that. 357 length the back. Saxon violin by Johann Gottlob Ficker. Missing some bits there. Circa 1794. Violin labelled Pietro Tononi. Nice back there. Another Strad labelled instrument there. Another kind of Strad violin there, like kind of higher end trade kind of stuff. Another unlabelled violin there. Another Strad labelled instrument. And JTL there. 1000 to 1500 on that. Violin labelled Pietro Antonio Dalla Costa. Which again looks like kind of 19th century German. Conrad Heberlein there. And violin labelled Giuseppe Guarnerius. Kind of looks like a higher level of trade violin there. And the violin unlabelled. Violin by Julius Hermann Prell. German violin labelled Nicola Amati, probably by Neuner and Hornsteiner, 1200 to 1800 on that. A Roth there. It's kind of more recent Roth, always popular in the US. American violin by Martin Sheridan, Abbey Strings, Chicago, 1500 to 2200 on that. Slowly coming to the end of this auction, I think. German violin, Eugen Meinl. Czech violin by František Javier Drozen, Turnov, 1942. Quite a popular maker actually, so that could do fairly well. American violin by Willibald Conrad Stenger, Chicago, 1929. Really loving how many Chicago violins here. That is really cool. 2,000 to 3,000 on that nice looking violin. American violin, Albert and Merker. Once again, probably completely bastardising all of that. Really nice choice of wood and varnish on that. That's quite interesting. Violin labelled Franciscus Geisenhoff. Interesting violin there, 2 to 3. Violin from the Marshy region, labelled Emilio Solani. Okay, curious. 2 to 3,000 on there. 355 length the back. Violin, Andres Morelli, Carl Hermann Workshop. It's actually fairly nice looking trade violin there, 2 to 3. Violin unlabelled, okay, that's an interesting looking violin there. I presume that's probably American. 358 length of back, that is an interesting one. Violin by Nicolas Chapuis, Paris, 1775. That is an interesting looking violin. Not sure that is anything to do with Chapuis. It certainly doesn't look like anyone that I've seen before, but I could be wrong there. But it is an interesting looking violin. In any case, curious F-holes on that. Violin by Charles Jean-Baptiste Colomazat Pair. Needs obviously a bit of repair work on that, 2,000 to 3,000, but these are popular. Violin labelled Giovanni Marchi. I think we've got about 5 left to go, 5 or 6. Violin by Johann Ulrich Fichtel, Mittenwald. Definitely needs a bit of repair. French violin by Nicolas Bourlier. Okay, it's one with these interesting kind of Napoleonic scenes that you sometimes got on these violins. 3 to 5 on that. German violin, Ernst Heinrich Roth, XR model, 1945. A bit more desirable than the other one that we saw, 426. Italian violin by Raffaello Bozzi, Milan. 7 to 10 on that, so we've jumped up quite a bit to some higher level stuff there. Looks in fairly good condition as well. Branded internally BR Italy. Violin labelled Luigi Fabrice, 8 to 12 on that. Kind of interesting looking violin. And I think that might be us. I think that's the end of the auction. Let's just double check that to make sure, but I think that might be the final lot. Yeah, it is. So there you have it. That is the Chicago Violin Auction for the 6th of April 2025. Really interesting auction. Some cool bows and a few curious looking instruments. Definitely good to see another US auction house going, so please check out the link to the catalogue in the video description and kind of show them some support. Yeah, I think I really like the Viola in this auction. I think that's a really interesting one, and a few other stuff kind of caught my eye, but yeah, I think overall a very interesting auction and worth having a look at a bit more closely if you have time. Just going to pull up that Viola just to remind myself what it looks like, if I can find it. So somewhere down here, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting instrument. So yeah, on that note, thanks a lot for watching, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.